This is the Generation Report. I am Paul Zimmy Finn. Hope you're doing well. I never anticipated 2021 would be the year when I was named a Geriatric Millennial. But I have been, and since the designation appears to have taken the world by storm, or at least the internet, it warrants a closer look. The madness began on April 21st when a Workplace Insight article posted to the site medium.com, link in the description, identified geriatric millennials as a quote-unquote special microgeneration. The author identified the superannuated millennials in question as those born between 1980 and 1985, who apparently check the boxes of being comfortable with both analog and digital forms of communication, as well as weathered internet veterans. While it's flattering as a millennial of 35 to be considered a weathered veteran of anything, it's past time for this farce to come to a stop. First, there is no such thing as a microgeneration. As proof, when you search for microgeneration in Merriam-Webster, it yields no results. Wikipedia, for what it's worth, directs to an article about an alternative process for generating heat and electrical power. Oddly enough, isolating a few birth cohorts into what amounts to its own generation actually demonstrates two facts about generations which are self-evident. Older and younger cohorts within generations are slightly different from one another, and neighboring generations have cusps at the edges whose members resemble each other in some ways. Generations, however, are not created out of small demographic samples identified by journalists. They're created by history and identified by experiences, attitudes, behaviors, and social contributions common across large groups of people. Moreover, even at the intersections where the cusps of two generations meet, there are still meaningful differences between neighboring birth cohorts that place them with different generations. Regardless of how many stories about them might circulate in the media, microgenerations will never be formally defined because they do not exist. Second, identifying generations or parts of generations according to how they use technology misses the mark. Like people, generations become acquainted with different technologies at different ages and use tech according to the possibilities it holds to give them what they want. But on its own, technology doesn't cement or reflect generational identities. It never has, and it never will. The oldest millennials may remember a time before every home had a computer, and the youngest millennials scarcely remember a time before the iPhone. They're both still millennials. Third, the geriatric millennial fad demonstrates once again how conversations about generations in the mainstream have completely diverted away from narratives that contribute to a greater, more coherent understanding of the subject. It should come as no surprise, then, that one way that vacuum of understanding gets filled is through endless searching for new ways to self-identify. I've known for a long time that I'm part of the older, comparatively more individualistic and cynical segment of millennials, which I assert extends to people born in 1986. But even millennials who cast a vote for or against George W. Bush hit the real world before the global financial crisis and have all the tech savviness of weathered internet veterans are just millennials. As long as Strauss and Howe's generational theory keeps getting ignored by the mainstream, ridiculous headlines and concepts like the geriatric millennial will keep making the rounds. But on the bright side, the next time a non-existent microgeneration gets designated as old, it'll be someone else's turn. If you enjoy this content, please like, subscribe, and share it with someone who's been told they're a geriatric millennial. Thank you for listening. Enjoy the holiday weekend, and may God bless America.